If the Russia investigation was a marathon, taking nearly two years, more than 500 witnesses, and a 448-page report to complete, the probe into Trump's relationship with Ukraine is starting to look more like a sprint, at least so far. It's less than a week into the official impeachment inquiry, and already subpoenas have gone out, and House Intelligence Chair Adam Schiff says his committee could start scheduling hearings with whistleblower and other witnesses as early as this week.
We haven't set a timetable, except that we want to do this as urgently as possible. This is serious business here.
The whistleblower complaint detailed the White House's efforts to lock down sensitive information by taking it out of the computer system where these transcripts are typically stored and moving it to a separate, much more restricted system otherwise used to store and handle classified information. According to a report from the New York Times, the White House also tried to lock down the contents of conversations Trump had with Russian President Putin and the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. The president and his supporters say this is all just a ploy to attack him.
If Democrats want to impeach because Rudy Giuliani talked to a couple of Ukrainians, good luck with that. I don't think the American people think that's the appropriate course of action.
Well, how about because the president talked to one Ukrainian? House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says her caucus is just upholding its oath to defend the Constitution.
None of us, my colleagues will agree, came to Congress to impeach a president. It's a difficult decision to make.
A decision Pelosi only came to recently, despite calls from many in her caucus to take action over the results of the Russia investigation. So, now what? Sixth highest ranking Democrat in the House, Congresswoman Katherine Clark, joins me now. Congresswoman, it's great to see you.
Thanks, Jim.
So, the Speaker is getting a lot of praise for leadership and timing on the impeachment issue, but it seems to me, as an observer, she didn't lead the members to the inquiry. She was led by the members to the inquiry. Isn't that a fair characterization of what happened?
I think it's both. I actually think the president's the one who led us all to the inquiry. He did not leave us a choice. When we have a president who clearly has put his own political gain over our national security, over the integrity of our elections, and over his oath of office, I think that all of us felt, and the Speaker included, that there was no other decision that could be made.
I thought one of the critical moments was a member of Congress with whom you're very close, and John King from CNN said, all members of Congress are not created equal. And here's Congressman John Lewis on the floor of the House last week.
We cannot delay. We must not wait. Now is the time to act. I have been patient while we tried every other path and used every other tool. The future of our democracy is at stake.
How big a deal was that congressman's speech?
Well, we don't call John Lewis the conscience of the House for nothing. When John Lewis tells us to look into our souls, look at the spirit of history, we take that seriously. And I think that all of us look at this situation with a sitting president who feels comfortable enough calling up a foreign government who needs our support, who depends on the United States more than any other country, against a threat from Russia, and says, investigate my political opponents. And, you know, that's all we need to hear. That is of such a magnitude, such a threat to the core of our democracy, that I feel we had to act, and John Lewis certainly captured that.
Well, I should say you actually felt we had to act a couple of months before. Here's part of what you said on July 25th. He has no respect for the rule of law, meaning Donald Trump, has put kids in cages, regularly tramples on the Constitution, uses racist words, acts, and policies to divide our country. I believe we need to open an impeachment inquiry that will provide us a more formal, focused way to fully uncover the facts. We have read that in the caucus, the Speaker has made clear, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that she wants this impeachment inquiry narrowly focused, not on a whole range of things, but on this Ukraine thing about which you were just speaking. Is that what it's going to be, or can people like you bring in other issues like that, or issues from the Mueller report about firing Comey or urging Comey not to investigate Flynn, some of the items on that obstruction of justice list? What's the scope going to be?
You know, I think that we have been clear from when we took over the majority. In fact, I can tell you from when I was traveling around the country supporting different candidates. American people understand corruption. And I think why this issue has become focused on this is because the corruption is so clear-cut. It is a sitting president calling a foreign government and saying, I need a favor from you.
So does that mean that that will be the sole focus of this impeachment inquiry? Or will it be, will people like you and others, should you choose, be able to file articles on other issues?
I think those decisions are going to be made. Right now, our focus is on how this whistleblower complaint was urgent and credible. And so we are focusing right now on the Intelligence Committee and their work in this particular complaint. But the Speaker was clear that this impeachment inquiry extends to all of the 6 relevant oversight committees. And so we're going to have to see how the facts progress.
Well, you know, speaking of broadening this, just in the last 24 hours, let me read a tweet that I know you've seen. President retweets a tweet from Fox News guest Pastor Robert Jeffress last night, in which he says, if the Democrats are successful in moving the president from office, and then Trump adds, which they will never be, it will cause a civil war-like fracture in this nation from which our country will never heal. Then this morning, you mentioned the Intelligence Committee, the president lays out a bill of particulars against the chair of that committee, Adam Schiff, and says arrest for treason. And as you know, and I assume people at home know, a potential penalty for treason is the death penalty. And then this afternoon, he says, we're working hard to find out who the whistleblower is, to me at least, in clear violation of the whistleblower law. He's like an impeachment machine. How do you deal with these threats if they aren't treated as impeachable offense? He's basically, to me at least, threatening the chair of your Intelligence Committee.
That's right. And threatening not only the whistleblower, but those who have given the whistleblower credible information. And this is what is so frightening about this president, that there is no acknowledgement of putting the country over himself. He really does believe that this is about him, that his political life, his position, is what is of paramount importance.
So what does, I mean, let's just focus on this one thing. Arrest for treason. Not saying he misbehaved, not saying I didn't like the mob analogy that Schiff made in his opening statement. Arrest for treason. What do you do about this when a chair of a House committee, democratically elected, small d, is essentially, to me, threatened by the President of the United States? What happens?
That's right. I mean, and that's been the problem with this presidency. What do we do? How do we check these norms? And this is a somber decision. None of us have come here lightly. As the clip from the Speaker said, we didn't come here to impeach a president, even this president. But this is a danger. It is dangerous to say things, to make accusations of treason. It is dangerous to solicit political favors and investigations from a country depending on you for their security. And that is why we have to act. We're going to act urgently, but we're going to be fair and get the facts out to the American people. But we cannot just turn a blind eye and say Trump being Trump. He is an incredibly powerful person, and we have to treat these kind of threats with the seriousness that they pose.
You know, Katherine Clark, you just used the word somber, which I've heard the Speaker use as well. How do you say somber when one of your colleagues, Congresswoman Tlaib, is selling T-shirts saying "Impeach the MF"? Is that somber? I mean,
well, I can tell you what the mood has been in the caucus, and it is joyless. This is a place that I may have gotten to months ago, but for some, this is not what they want to come to Congress to do.
Would you prefer that she not be posting that T-shirt? Is that helping the cause? Impeach the MF?
I'm not going to comment on her T-shirt sales.
How about commenting on yourself? You said not too long ago, after the most recent pieces on Justice Kavanaugh, if the facts are what they appear to be, that's a paraphrase, impeachment may be on the table. Is impeachment on the table for Justice Kavanaugh too?
I think that if we had done the investigation around Kavanaugh, and we're coming up on 1 year on that, given it the time and listened to the women and looked into this instead of rushing it through, he may never have been put on the Supreme Court
But impeachment's
bench.
not on the table now when the impeachment of the president is on the table. Is that a fair statement?
I think that is a fair statement. I think that we have to put the priorities in line here. But it's also just being confirmed to the Supreme Court. If there was credible other information that came out, does not mean exoneration for life.
A couple of I always wonder when I speak to someone like you about I know you have friends who are in the Republican Party in the House. When you're having a cup of coffee or you're in the gym or wherever you hang out with these people, do they honestly believe there is nothing wrong with the president having a conversation with the leader of another country, soliciting dirt on a political opponent? It's fine to say, if they want to say, from my perspective, I love his policies, I think the tax cuts are great, I think foreign policy is great, but do they really believe that there's nothing here, move on with what he admits himself he said to the president of Ukraine?
I don't see how anyone who takes the oath of office as a member of Congress can honestly look at this situation. But what disturbs me is that you apparently have to wait until you're out of the Senate, like we're seeing from Jeff Flake today, to find that courage. He
Another
talks
Texas congressman quit today, too.
Yeah, stand up while you're in office.
But why aren't they? Why are they so scared? I'm serious about this. Are they so scared of his tweet? I refuse to believe that good Americans, which I'm assuming most of them are, Republicans that is, that there is not a significant swath who are not deeply disturbed by the behavior of the leader of their party and the President of the United States. So is it just fear of a tweet that could cost you your job? Is that what it is?
It must be, because there's no other answer. But I can tell you what we are seeing changing, if not my Republican colleagues as of yet. But we're seeing American people changing on this. And I think the American people are going to get ahead of those members of Congress who are saying there's no threat to our democracy, to our Constitution, to the integrity of our elections that is too great for me. When the American people start responding as the facts of this situation continue to unfold, I do think you will see Republicans responding to them.
Last couple of things, Katherine Clark. Let's talk about the risk for a second. You're a big gun control person. You were co-led the effort that sit-in on the House floor a couple of years ago. I assume we're going to hear Mitch McConnell say, and I will, with a straight face, I was ready to take up the background check bill, but I can't be spending time on background checks when the Democrats decide it's more important to impeach a president of the United States. So don't blame me, blame them. Your gun bill is going to go nowhere, probably anyway, but probably even more so because of impeachment. Does it put your presidential candidates at risk? Does it put your House majority at risk? Are you worried about the consequences if you impeach in the House and don't convict in the Senate?
The only consequences I'm worried about are if we don't impeach. If we do not act with the seriousness that the actions of the president represent to the fundamentals of who we are as an American people and democracy, it is far past time to put patriotism over partisan bickering.
Even if you lose elections?
There is no choice in this particular situation. We have to do this. This is just involves our national security, the fundamentals of who we are as an American people and how we are going to function in the 2020 election. So whatever else may happen, and it would certainly be disingenuous at best if Mitch McConnell said impeachment was why he's holding up dozens and dozens of bills on the Senate floor. But there is no choice. And I think that this is where we have arrived. We will see how this investigation proceeds. But it really is, as John Lewis said, history is demanding this response.
Katherine Clark, good to see you.
Thank you so much.